This is Secular Nation, an official production of the Atheist Alliance of America.
This episode, we'll discuss current events and examine Steve Bannon.
All right, welcome to another episode of Secular Nation. I am your host, Jeremy.
And I'm TJ.
And we will be discussing the fall of Western civilization today.
Oh, yes, much to get to.
It's a much slower burn than I thought. Now, if you want to email us, you can always email me at secularjak@gmail.com.
And you can hit me up at thehumantj@gmail.com.
I also got a Twitter handle at secularjak. And, of course, you can see our attempt at crowdfunding at the TJK Fund at patreon.com.
It's there.
It's there. We'll have show notes and the links, and you can donate to it. And don't mind the lack of profile picture or descriptions at all. It helps us as volunteer hosts of Secular Nation to hopefully bring it out on a more regular basis. Now, there is a shit ton of exciting news out of the Atheist Alliance of America.
Oh, yes.
And we're very excited to announce that our new website, well, not now, I mean, it's been announced on social media, but for about 2 weeks now, but Atheist Alliance of America has a new website out, has a new design. It looks a lot sharper, a lot cleaner than the old one. We want to thank C.W. Brown, Mark Gurra, Derek Colorado for getting that all set up for us. We invite you to check it out, peruse. You can learn about starting a committee. You can learn about all the stuff we're doing. And you can also hit that donate page and help the organization out. That's atheistallianceamerica.org/donate.
Speaking of VP Mark Gurra, he has multiple talks coming up. He has one coming up, in fact, July 22nd, where he will be talking to the Secular Saturday Convention about secular Buddhist Reformation. And I believe that's in Chattanooga, Tennessee, right?
That is in Chattanooga. So if you are in the area or want to make a road trip over the weekend, tickets are available online. We will have that link in the show notes. Later in the month of August, so not later this month, but in August, he will also be talking at the American Atheist Convention. And that's August 18th to the 21st. You can also check the show notes for links on getting tickets to that. I believe you can do like 3-day passes and shorter day passes. So along with Mark Gurra speaking there, we also have our ex-Muslim committee chair, Zarin Faraz, chair, leader. I don't know what you call it. Let's go with that. So that'll be exciting. She has a great story to tell. And then we also have former President Aaron Ra, who's currently running for state senate in Texas. We got, David Silverman will be there, James Randi, Matt Dillahunty of the Atheist Experience. I believe this convention is in Texas, but all the details will be on the website or in the show notes at their website. So be sure to check that out and get tickets if you want to go.
That sounds like a star-studded cast. I also want to take this time to remind everyone to stop by the new website and check on the many committees that are going on with the Atheist Alliance of America. One of the most popular ones, of course, being Atheist Alliance Helping the Homeless. It's
pretty new. I believe it's in 4 cities now. We got close to 100 volunteers over the course of it. And, it's just a way to show that you can be good without God. And I know Christians are going to be like, well, we help the homeless all the time. And I'm like, you don't have a monopoly on that shit.
They're just doing it to get to heaven. It's selfish.
That's right.
And the Atheist Alliance, we're doing it just to help the homeless.
Yeah, just to help the homeless.
There's no ulterior motive.
No ulterior motives. So that's really cool. Get into that. You can also join the organization and start a local chapter in your city. So definitely check that out. There is also, as a part of that, truckers helping the homeless, atheist truckers helping the homeless. And that is a very exciting kind of thing that I don't think is being done, that involves kind of being able to go across the country, pick up supplies at different stops, and then, ferrying them to people in need. So it's exciting. That's new, creative, and I really like it. So keep an eye on that. If you want to start a committee, go to the site and you can join the organization. We're very open, very inclusive. And we want people from all walks of life to start, saying they can be good without God and stop thinking we're killing babies or whatever the fuck people say.
All right.
Yeah,
Right. Let's cease the misconceptions.
Let's see some. Let's dispel the myths. All the myths. Myths about us. The myths about the myths that are religion. It's going to be a great ride, guys. Also, we're like the last hope for humanity. So.
Yeah, and current events most certainly lends to that fact.
Yeah. So, and with that, we're gonna get into some current events. We are in a pretty crazy time. I believe Christianity is trying to take back its political power. It feels it lost under Obama, and it's scary.
Well, yeah, I think what's really scary about what we're seeing in these most recent current events is the administration's leaning more hard on the evangelical extremists for support. And I personally think that there's a few reasons for this. One of those, of course, being these are people of blind faith. I think it's also dangerous for a couple other reasons, but we'll get into some of that as we cover these topics.
Well, first off, everybody saw the photo with the evangelicals laying hands on Donald Trump, something they love to do. And I don't actually know the history behind laying hands, but it's always creeped me the fuck out. I will say that TJ definitely looked a little bit into this, but the people who were actually there, there were 30 leaders who came to lay hands all over Trump, all up on him, and many from his faith advisory group, or his faith advisory council from the campaign.
Yeah.
We talked about that a little bit in previous episodes when we were talking about the prosperity gospel. So he had Paula White there. He had Michelle Bachmann, Mark Burns. I mean, it was a star-studded cast of some of the most money-making preachers and leaders of the evangelical crowd.
There was also members of what can only be described as Christian PR. Leaders of companies that specialize basically in Christian PR.
Well, they need it more and more. It's quite obvious.
What I'm seeing, though, is the influence of this Christian PR with the administration. They're using that to really whip up an extremist base. Because even more moderate religious people are stepping away from their support for Trump. But it's the extremist base that he still holds. And this is just showing that he's going to be leaning on them more heavily.
Oh, I mean, I definitely think that he knows it's the base that's going to get him reelected or through any scandal. He had 80% of them voting for him in the general election, and he still retains, I believe, 75%. So, I mean, don't quote me on that. I just believe I've read some poll numbers that indicate that.
It sounds right.
But we know that a combination of blind faith, a combination of just anti-immigrant, anti-anything foreign,
There's some racism in there, too.
There's some racism in there. It's not all racism, but there's definitely some racism. The nicer part of it, though, is what's trapping the moderate Christians in there. And when we were talking about the prosperity gospel on a previous episode, we were really highlighting how it seems to be antithetical to the Christianity that was kind of decided to be the right Christianity in the 70s to 90s, and then these Baptists and all these. As soon as the cameras got put on these people, everybody started to be like, "Yeah, I like to be violently extreme in my positions about religion. Yeah, that definitely sounds good."
Well, it seems that a possible end result of the frenzy that we see being whipped up lately with the push to get religion into politics, more into politics, should I say. I fear that the end result
more openly. They just don't want to hide it anymore.
Yeah.
It's not even like more. It's just, they just want to bring it out in the open. They're like, I love those gay pride parades. I'm really jealous. So let's put it all out there, guys.
Yeah.
We hate everybody.
Let our hate flag fly.
Life is pain and suffering, and heaven will be awesome. So peace, y'all.
Yeah. I guess they figure the more pain and suffering that they inflict on others, the more heaven they'll get.
Well, I mean, the calculus works out.
I mean, possibly.
You could grab some verses from the Bible that definitely support that.
And that's the extremist mindset, and that's what I fear is the end result. It's like there is an attempt to raise a Christian extremism to combat Islamic extremism. And our president is a perfect figurehead for that, whether he wants it or not, because I really do not see Trump as any kind of religious man. I mean, he, for most of his life, has been an antithesis to what religion is and what it stands for and what these same people who are laying hands on him have preached and supposed to stand for. And, excuse me, the end result is that extreme opposite to combat what is so being pushed as the problem of Islamic extremism. Because at this point in his presidency, he has not gotten the support he wanted from the politicians. He has not gotten the support he wanted from the corporate world. Because there's large businesses condemning his actions constantly. Because they have to look good for their customers.
Yeah, their consumers.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So he is left with the only people who will give him the love that he cherishes. Because, I mean, if he's shown us one thing, Trump desires love. He desires praise.
Oh, yeah.
And he's going to the people who will give him that. And he will give whatever they want to keep that love up. And at a certain point, the politics and the nice speeches and the, one day I'll give you what you want isn't going to be enough. And when
what they are going to ask for is literally the apocalypse. And I definitely put this as a major theory when we were kind of going over some previous episodes, which is Islamic terrorism and extremism, or Islamic extremism is a terrible blight on society right now that needs to be extinguished through some secular action. But what the Christians over in America doing are using our apparatus to position themselves into an apocalyptic chess game. They want to be on the fields of Megiddo with the invaders of Israel or whatever the fuck prophetic shit they have.
And they will let America.
ISIS wants that all day because that's also in their prophecy.
Oh yeah, and the Christian right will let America turn into Gog or Magog to bring about that apocalypse.
Yeah, that's some deep Christian shit, guys. But like, they're definitely wanting the world to end. Fuck global warming. That's why they don't give a shit.
Yeah, they don't.
Because they're like, we are going to bring God back to this earth. Like, it's fucking crazy.
And when Trump can't get the love, he'll give them war.
And that, yep, got to watch out for that shit. Because I ain't getting drafted.
No.
No religious crusade.
I'm too old and fat to fight. I'm just throwing that out right now.
They'll probably put me in the drone shit, but
I can use a joystick.
But like, I hear that's like a terribly mentally taxing type of job that can definitely put some suicidal thoughts and shit, man. So it would all be bad.
It would.
Period.
Yeah.
Dot. I would like to go into some specific examples of what the evangelical right is doing right now. So within the past couple weeks, it was found out that Ken Ham, the leader, who runs Answers in Genesis or something. He's a creationist museum guy. He started the Ark Encounter. There's been some news articles coming out about how he promised things to the county and the state government and certain revenue streams that were supposed to materialize as all the people came down for this tax exempt. I believe it was tax exempt. If it wasn't tax exempt, the story that came out in the last week and a half shows that the crazy lengths they'll go to avoid giving the government any money for their crazy ass museum. He sold from what was a for-profit company that owned the Ark Encounter to his non-profit arm of his little megalithic empire he's trying to build for $10. I mean, its valuation is like at least in the 5 million range, but it might be far more than that with the actual building. That might just be a land thing. But he did it so that the nonprofit couldn't be taxed, so he didn't have to pay the safety fees because emergency responders are going to be liable for that property. So he wanted to avoid giving that county money to protect the people that come to the Ark Encounter in case what they imagine happens, which is some crazy person trying to ruin the party.
And this is what really, really just gets my goat about the evangelical right.
Grinds your gears.
It grinds my gears. It makes me want to kick grass. It's the fact that this whole holier-than-thou facade is based on a hypocrisy that is just barely tinted over. Just barely tinted over. It's like the actions speak way louder than the words that are being preached by these people.
Anybody who's been in a church knows that's their MO.
Oh. So many of these churches have turned into temples to wealth. Churches of money. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we have a culture emerging and blossoming in this country that combines the selfishness and the desire and drive of greed with the holier-than-thou controlling tenets of religion extremism with the perfect puppet to push anything through if they could get any kind of kind of cohesion in that Republican House and Senate.
I'm not even sure if Trump was taken out of office tomorrow that Mike Pence would pull as high as him in the presidency. Because I feel like they all think of him as a puppet to bring about their idea of the global world order or apocalyptic yearnings or whatever, what have you.
Which is a real reason that we have hands on the president, you know?
Yeah.
God help him bring about the end for us so we can come to heaven with you.
Help him be a proper Manchurian candidate for your love and guidance.
It's like extremist Christianity's version of the 72 Muslims. You know? Mm-hmm. We're not going to sacrifice ourselves to go to heaven.
Virgins?
Sorry.
Well, they would presumably be Muslim, and if that was right.
Apparently.
Well, they wouldn't be in heaven, right? If they weren't.
Well, because there's no such thing as an infidel virgin, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. It sounds right. It sounds right.
Because all Americans are all American women are whores and they're infidels and.
Yeah. Okay. No, definitely. This is logical.
All right. we brought it back.
So check it out though. We have high-level cabinet members that are going into closed-door sessions with crazy evangelicals.
Closed-door sessions.
We're talking about sessions?
Sessions, closed-door sessions.
Nice. Definitely, he would meet with the Alliance Defending Freedom, or the ADF, as I will call them. And if we mix that up with ADL, please yell at us. So they go down this closed door. Now, the ADF, if you do some digging, is one of the most poisonous kind of law entities in America right now. They're currently bringing to the Supreme Court a Christian baker business owner's case that he has a right to discriminate based on sex, gender, religious orientation, or anything service to anybody just walking into there, which says, I mean, like, how do you, like, that doesn't make any fucking sense, because you got to figure that out. Although, I mean, there's arguments for a business owner being able to kick anybody they want out, I guess, but you know, this is just to advance a Christian agenda that we're gonna take all the unsavories and put them into a hole, and it won't be. Oh, yeah. We won't call them camps.
We won't.
You know, we'll just put them off to the side. So this is get this shit off camera. You know, this is like a Hillary Goldman Sachs speech. Apparently, you know, let's get him. Oh, we don't know what he said. We know what Sessions said. He said, "You guys are great people, and I'll do anything that you guys say. We need religious liberty everywhere, please."
Yeah.
Terrible impression.
It's always funny to me that religious liberty and religious freedom is freedom to practice religion, but not freedom to not practice religion.
It's not freedom from religion.
Yeah.
Yep. No, we got to get that forced down our fucking throats.
Oh, but the ADF has been labeled a hate group. They believe things like being gay is as sinful as bestiality. And they are very active. There's a lot of money behind them. They demonstrate constantly. and our Attorney General closed the door and more than likely kissed the ass of this group.
Yeah, you don't know what happens in that shit. When
they're certainly refusing to release anything.
Oh, I'm sure.
And in fact, there
would be no surprises, though. Like, I don't even know, like, of all the things to hide, this seems to be unnecessary.
And really, and it's still, even if it was proven, and there was recordings of him going in there just saying homosexuals should be rounded up and shot, and extreme things like that, it would still not affect that 75% you were talking about. The 75% that has been whipped up. The 75% that will eventually become
I would
the new Crusades.
I would gather to suspect that 2% would be lost. But you know how he was at 80% during the campaign and voting? The 5% that left, some of them will come back and be like a 76%. Some will come back and be
like, oh, you are that bad. Cool.
They're like, oh, shit, man.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
No, definitely. And this group they have a handbook on their website. I don't know if I want to link to the show notes, but you can look them up, Alliance Defending Freedom. That's all about, if you're a religious institution, how to cover your ass while you're discriminating against parts of the population to protect your religious beliefs. Because I'm pretty sure Jesus said, hey, if you run an organization that does this, and this, your entire fucking church is condemned. There's no any kind of personal responsibility or selling a fucking cake to a gay person. Jesus is gonna put you in hell for that?
Oh, it comes back to the hypocrisy. It's that it's something to justify their hatred. They are hate filled. Yeah, and they feel guilty for hating. Yeah, they do. They feel less guilty when they can justify it. God wants me to hate. God wants me to hate, so I feel good about my hate now because it's a whole lot fucking easier than coming to terms with myself and getting over it.
It's like a moral absolutism, a divine command theory, I think they call, which is just, it's easier to have a set of rules that you don't have to think about and weigh ethical decisions in the moment, depending on the factors involved, to come to a real morality of the situation. No, we can just push that off to what will be our pastor or our religious leader in our lives, spoon-feeding us the right interpretation. So it's all fucking lazy shit. And this organization is much like another organization that hit the news in the last 2 weeks, Hobby Lobby, which fucking sells, shit to decorate or do crafts or something. They're owned by Steve Green. Obviously, we know that Hobby Lobby was the ones who had the Supreme Court case that found that they had the right to not follow federal law in regards to the Affordable Care Act because they didn't want to offer birth control because it went against their religious beliefs.
That's some more...
As though they're responsible for that woman who uses birth control doing something immoral. That's a direct hit on their fucking conscience. Like, hell's coming because...
Well, that large, very religious company getting away with that is just another example of the rampant Christian prosecution.
Oh, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. I heard that all the time on
they're being persecuted. They're basically being fed to lions.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And that's what they want.
Even here in the U.S.
That's what they want. It's that kind of self-fulfillment fantasy that they're fighting the good cause. It's the whole thing against the world. We have to get to the actual news, though. Okay, so Hobby Lobby did that. It was a precedent-setting Supreme Court decision. And basically that let companies say that they were people who have religious beliefs and therefore can stop running based on the regulations of everybody else, which goes completely against the free market. But, you might argue that regulations in themselves go against the free market. But fuck you. Everybody should at least be on the same playing field, I would say.
So not only are corporations people, but also churches are people. Yeah, they
need to be reined in, though, because apparently they're taking all their profits from their business, which is being built up by employees who aren't necessarily religious. I think they're stealing their wages to support Steve Green's private biblical ministry fantasies, where he has been, since I believe 2000 or something, slowly accruing biblical artifacts from the time period of the Bible so that he can come up with the Museum of the Bible. And in this process, in deals, I believe in 2010, he was told by a source who was going to get him about 5,500 artifacts which are cuneiform tablets, historical pieces of that region, could have been owned by the state and stolen in ensuing chaoses and wars that have been going on. 5,500 artifacts sent into there. They had to pay an outside source. They were told by like 2 different people that they needed to put money into 7 different bank accounts. And then those 5,500 artifacts were shipped over, labeled clay tablets, which customs law clearly dictates you have to specifically label what's on it, to 3 different Hobby Lobby locations, and basically unmarked delivery.
Sounds shady.
Yeah, and like they have to give all those back. They have to pay a $3 million fine. Well, like, he's been sinking money into this for years so he can build this stupid fucking. I don't understand why monuments to biblical history are the play here. Like, yeah, social media. There's just cheaper ways to push your propaganda. Like, it just seems like somebody's so fucking caught in the past that they're like, you know what we're gonna do to get the kids really into religion, get them fired up?
We're gonna make a museum.
Right? What the fuck is that about? Well, Hobby Lobby is a company that has fucking employees. And if you're a free, solely free market capitalist, they have fucking investors. Is this actually getting to the bottom line? I don't know. I don't know if they're publicly traded. But it seems like they're fucking doing something somewhere down the line that's just, why?
Yeah. That's
just a complete waste of money. Like, Steve Green, you are part of you own an organization, but like, that organization's beyond you at that point. You have to support that in a proper way. You can't just fucking take all this and go do whatever the hell you want and have illegal artifacts sent to Hobby Lobby stores.
No, and this brings up another question. Is there a trace to who he's buying these from? Random people in Middle East?
Now, I originally wrote down what the title of the section was as Hobby Lobby AIDS ISIS ... Probably. No, just probably. But come on, though. And then I found out it was from 2010, and ISIS wasn't really a whole thing back then. But it's probably terrorists, so I'll still hold firm.
I mean,
it's probably
an argument can be made.
Yeah.
In 2010, the timing is right that this could have helped fund and start.
Oh my God, they could have started ISIS. This is all speculation, guys. But if you want to do some digging, get back to us. Not completely out of fucking left field, right?
Right. I mean, there's circumstantial pieces there.
Very circumstantial,
yes,
but
yes, and
7 different bank accounts.
Someone with greater resources than I might be able to put that together.
Hint, hint. So,
if you do put that together, email me at humantj at gmail.com and let me know your story so we can get you on this show.
Oh, that'd be dope. I don't know if people still use the word dope, but I will continue to.
It is dope.
There we go. So we kind of wanted to do for a while a deeper dive into the man that is Steve Bannon.
And drag him out of the shadows.
And so we thought we'd take the last part of the show and kind of go through who we think is one of the most dastardly figures in the Trump White House.
Most assuredly. And his influence, and we have discussed it before, we mentioned it on the previous show, that he likes to be in the shadows. And that's where he's gotten to be these past couple months. And he's starting to thrive again in the administration. And we're going to go through some things about him. We're going to go through some things that we may expect to see.
On to Steve Bannon. This motherfucker.
That's how any conversation about Steve Bannon should start. This motherfucker.
He's just a snake in the grass. Now, this is, of course, the chief advisor to the president.
Chief advisor.
Yeah, chief advisor. Well, I don't know whatever fucking titles they are giving these people. I feel like their responsibilities are so far removed from what any previous administration's positions are that...
I didn't vote on a chief strategist.
They should just call him, like, the minister of propaganda.
Right.
So... Either way, Steve Bannon, Minister of Propaganda for the Trump administration. has been doing a lot of things in the last couple months. Recently, he had a scuffle about how the healthcare plan should have included taxes on the top income bracket.
Yeah, he's actually calling for higher taxes on the rich.
They were trying to cut that shit to like 35 cold and corporate tax rate of 15. Now, Steve Bannon still wants to keep that 15% corporate tax rate while pushing the top income earners individual tax comes. He said he wants to see a 4 in front of that. So right now it's like a 38, 39 or something like that.
That just tells me he's already got most of his stuff comfortably in a tax shelter.
Well, no, he this is all his populist game. Like he knows what the people do not like the idea that the top income earners are going to get tax breaks while they're going to be paying more for health insurance or not having it at all.
No, and that's an example of him reaching and grabbing something that he knows is going to get him attention, is going to get him some populist support.
Yeah, he knows that's coming out into the press, and he's playing a game because if he keeps the corporate tax rate at what it is, and I believe he wants to, keep investment income. I mean, he kind of wants to get them the way to get their tax rate super low and get them more money in their pocket while making it look like a popular move. So it's really fine-tuned shit right there.
And as we talk more about Steve Bannon, the man, and his life, you'll see many more examples of that where it seems like just a random grab at a value,
Oh, yeah.
and put himself wholeheartedly into that value, and then you do a little bit of digging and you find out, the real reason is because he made a shit ton of money off of it.
Well, because he's manipulating public opinion, but he has a philosophy on life that's like really grounded in some fucked up shit. So we'll definitely get into all that. In the last couple months, people were like, why no White House press briefing? Like, why are there no cameras and why aren't you doing it anymore?
Simple explanation.
He gave the simplest explanation that Sean Spicer got fat. So if that's your excuse for not talking to the press and not giving anybody any details on anything your administration's doing, I don't know. I feel like they have to have some kind of spin doctor.
Yeah.
Why don't they just hire somebody else?
The 75% must not be fat.
The 75% of evangelicals?
Of the people still supporting Trump.
That's of evangelicals.
Yeah.
And I'm sure many of them are fat. So
they don't see it. They don't see it.
And like just a couple months ago, he called Kushner a cuck and a globalist. He's fighting within this administration to keep it on the level to the Alex Jones crowd that Trump is still on the straight and narrow and that Bannon's keeping him there.
Oh, and he feeds on the conflict. I really do think that he feeds on the conflict, and the more crazy stuff is going on to keep people's attention away from him, the more he can be in the shadows doing what he really wants to have done.
That's right. And he kind of went back in the shadows after he got kicked off the National Security Council because nobody knew why the fuck he was in there.
Yeah, big stink was caused about that.
And, he was in there for a couple months, and I don't know what kind of... And then they pushed down actual key military advisors, like, to a subservient role to Bannon.
Just to make way for Bannon, yeah.
Because Bannon... And I don't know what he accomplished there, because he wants basically the full force of Western civilization to come crushing down into the Middle East.
I basically think he wanted to make sure that he was in on the know. Anytime something big was going on, he wanted to make sure that he was in on the know.
And maybe he got all the information he needed to do his plan, when the shit hit the fan, he wasn't going to have his finger on the trigger, according to the public, but...
Well, I can guarantee you it was his idea to put him on the council.
Either way, he got kicked off after a CPAC appearance where he was trying to make buddy-buddy with Priebus. Because everybody thought they were fighting, which they probably are and were.
Yeah, probably still are.
Yeah, so, and that's because Bannon's his own man, I'll give him that. Like, he doesn't acquiesce. And he obviously knows more than anybody else in that administration as far as what got Trump elected and what will keep him in power.
I mean, it's a possibility that the reason Trump's cabinet and his closest officials are so dysfunctional is that Steve Bannon didn't want any serious competition.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he hasn't filled any. Steve Bannon has a storied history. He started off as a in a Catholic home. Both parents were Catholic.
Yep, little Catholic boy.
I read that I believe Pope John Paul II decided against some, like archaic law that was passed down in Catholicism, and his parents actually split to another form of Catholicism, and he joined in. So I didn't know that there was that much Catholic splitting. I didn't like it's the fucking Pope, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Mouth of God. So I feel like that's different than jumping from Protestant, from a Presbyterian church to a Baptist church. But apparently he did that. Motherfucker went into the Navy. Served.
Yeah, he was a naval officer. After the Navy, he got into Goldman Sachs.
Got into Goldman Sachs right out of the Navy. So, he did serve the country. But then he went to investment banking.
To defund the country.
There you go. And he in that position, really was able to do quite a few things. At one point, he got into experimenting, I guess, fancied himself a scientist, and started or headed, as it was in progress, the Biosphere 2 project.
Yeah, that was back in 1993.
Ooh, 1993. That was like 2 years after I was born. Which Biosphere 2 is basically the movie Biodome, but in real life.
Yeah.
So what he did was
took... not funny.
No, not funny. And what he did was he took a group of scientists, put them in the biosphere, which was presumably the second biosphere. Although, I think it was named that because Earth is our first biosphere, and they were making the second biosphere. But
it was essentially a big greenhouse, is what it was.
A big greenhouse and there's a interview with him at the time that details what he thought the process was. He was talking to a local news anchor, and he said they had complete control over all factors in there, including gas concentrations, atmospheric conditions, temperature. And the main point of it was to see how different mixes in that environment of atmospheric conditions led to different increases in the actual climate inside the sphere. And he was actually arguing that this was going to give scientists the best way to study global warming. So presumably he believed or believes in global warming.
At that point in time, I was going to say, see, this is an example of a contradiction in the man.
Right. Now, I don't actually know his current views on global warming, but he's definitely pushing climate denial if he himself is not a climate change denier.
Yeah. Anybody in this administration has to at least be pushing the anti-climate change narrative. Right.
And at this point, this whole project broke down because scientists came in and fucking smashed the glass of the biodome to ruin the environment, because they thought it was ridiculous conditions to put these scientists in, that the people who were running it were kind of power hungry. I don't know all the reasons. All I know is they came in and smashed some glass.
Well, that's what happens when businessmen running a science experiment think they know more than the scientists running the science experiment.
And he, this kind of shows his early, what I consider misogyny. And, I have a direct quote from him at that point. He says, "I'm not about to have a 29-year-old bimbo criticize people at this place for running something." This is in reference to Abigail Alling, which was a former employee of Biosphere 2, who compared Bannon taking over control of this experiment to the Challenger disaster. Don't know if that's actually an apt comparison, but...
Well, it was a disaster. We can take that from the metaphor.
Oh, yeah. And so what this really shows is Bannon deifies people who run something. Of course he said running something. Yeah. He didn't say running this organization, running this experiment. He said running something. So how dare you 29-year-old bimbo woman, tell a man
who has money,
who is running something, what, a fucking painter who runs a painting company, if somebody says, hey, maybe you should get in your social media game, how dare you fucking criticize that man?
Right?
He runs something.
He runs
He's
whole
beyond
business.
Christian, and that's par for the course for this Trump administration mindset.
Yeah.
It's just definitely fucked up shit.
I'm president, so since I'm president, I'm going to be constantly right, and how dare you criticize me? I'm running this country.
Right, exactly. So, kind of chicken and the egg bullshit. But right after this, he launched into a movie producing career.
Ooh.
So this man, basically, in the last decade, definitely. Like, he originally produced The Indian Runner, which was like a 90s film. And that was like his first foray. He has an IMDb page, guys. Like, just Stephen K. Bannon. You can look through his entire history. But after that movie, it kind of echoes out. And then he goes into conservative, crazy bullshit. So he got In the Face of Evil, which is a Ronald Reagan biopic.
You mean Stroke Fest?
I mean Stroke Fest, where he said just glorified, propagandistic type imagery, merging God and country and glory, and Reagan's valiant fight against communism and bringing it down single-handedly. I haven't watched it, but please give us reviews, guys.
I doubt we're missing much.
This sounds like Oscar bait. And so, I mean, it came out in 2004, so it'll be a little late. But that definitely kind of feeds into his whole, let's glorify a traditionalist interpretation. Let's ignore the fact that he had fucking Alzheimer's at the end of his career and Nancy Reagan was basically running the country based on astrology. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I believe something like that.
I believe something like that happened. Don't correct us, but obviously email me at secularjak@gmail.com or TJ at thehumantj gmail.com if you take issue with anything. We have taken the Pro-Truth Pledge, and you must hold us accountable for things that we definitely say are fact that aren't fact. But if we speculate, like certain Hobby Lobby leaders may be funding terrorist organizations or have started them with their funds, I don't think that breaks the pledge.
Yeah. We said we were speculating that we covered our ass.
Gleb, if you're listening, let us know. Now, this moves on to his obsession with conservative women, and he then went on to the movies Fire from the Heartland, The Awakening of the Conservative Woman, which is about kind of Ann Coulter, Michelle Bachmann, Sarah Palin.
Yeah.
He followed her campaign and made and produced a movie called The Undefeated.
He was a big Sarah Palin fan. He thought that she was the exact kind of politician that he was looking for and looking to back. I think it's possible that if there was no Sarah Palin uprising, that he might not have been looking for a Donald Trump.
Yeah, I think he would have just gone on her coattails.
Yeah.
I think he had a little crushy crush. Now, he said, like, why he likes these women, and he's like, this is a direct quote, they cut to the heart of the progressive narrative, okay? These are strong and independent women who are family first and traditionalist. So they are what would be the real women leaders of this country. And it's a weird obsession with this shit that I don't understand. But he definitely followed those motherfuckers around and made an entire movie about it, which kind of leads into his production on Clinton cash. So the opposite side of this, which is and that was a big election film. So I believe he produced and put some money into that movie, and I haven't seen Clinton cash. I don't know much about the Clinton Foundation and its apparent excesses. I don't argue that could be possible, but also this is fucking propaganda from an alt-right troll. So take that shit with a grain of salt.
Just because it's propaganda doesn't mean they can't have a kernel of truth in it.
Yeah, he had some problems with Occupy Wall Street, so he came out with Occupy Unmasked, which I didn't read much of the biopic, but I'm pretty sure there's an argument that like it's funded by George Soros or whatever that shit is. Yeah. So the progressive agenda is trying to bring down the globalist corporations, which is what I'm pretty sure Occupy Wall Street was about.
But at the same time,
Kushner's a cuck and a globalist. I don't really know where he's coming from there.
That's more of those contradictions.
And so my favorite movie from there was the Steam Experiment. This is a fictional one where an environmental extremist locks 6 people in a room and then slowly turns up the heat because he's mad that nobody's listening to him about the dangers of global warming. So he wants to show them what will happen to them when the globe warms. So he's like literally putting them in a sauna and just heating it up. It's like a horror movie or some thriller.
It's what he wanted to do in Biosphere 2.
And that damn bimbo.
Yeah.
That damn bimbo and those scientists breaking in.
She messed it all up for him, so he had to make a movie, like a smut film.
Like, okay.
Like his own personal little smut film.
To get that feeling out. Okay. That makes sense. He's just fucked up dude. I really want to watch this movie, though, because, like, that has to be so ridiculous. I do want to move on to the fact that after movies, he went on to run Breitbart News.
And that's the big part. That's where, most people knew him from before Donald Trump. That's
right. He took over after Andrew Breitbart died, and then he basically turned into an alt-right troll army manufacturer.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure many of those people...
Streamlined the troll army.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure many of the people from Breitbart started, the Reddit the subreddit R the Donald, and I don't have too much proof backing that up, but they definitely seem like the same game plan. And interestingly enough, this wasn't his first foray into online gaming culture, troll culture,
yeah,
and really getting people to go into a movement like that based on some bullshit shitty news. Like that was fake. It was fake. He made fake news cool. Breitbart make fake news.
Yeah, they were really fake news before fake news was cool, and
right?
They helped bring it on the scene.
Not like straight up lies, but that sensationalist on the line propaganda bullshit, trying to push people to do some crazy shit. Not as bad as Alex Jones guys, but I'm sure the Alex Jones crowd loved Breitbart while Bannon was running it. And to be fair, this is all Bannon, because Andrew Breitbart did not have the same kind of philosophy on life, philosophy on the website. And then Bannon came in, completely changed it, like editing process, the headlines, the fucking culture of people in the comments that he let brew up.
Yep.
I believe Ben Shapiro used to be an editor there, and he left because of Bannon being a crazy asshole. He didn't agree with it, and he didn't think that it was Andrew Breitbart's thing. So he morphed this into this giant monster. And then, in 2005... So I feel like where these aspirations happen, where he would want to get this, he actually bought a Hong Kong-based gaming firm that hired, quote, low-wage Chinese workers. So I don't know how low-wage, but low-wage Chinese workers.
Gotta be probably pretty low-wage to make money off of this.
To play fucking World of Warcraft, get gold, and then sell it to people for real money. So how if you ever played World of Warcraft, that you could have bought, for $100... like fucking 1,000 hours worth of mining for gold? Like, the rate was ridiculous. So these people, for him to be making money, and how much money did he make?
I think like around $5 million. $5
million.
That's how much? Not him personally, but his little company that he started.
Okay.
And that company did get sued, but he ended up taking what he could out of that company and starting a new media group.
Ah.
Yep.
Bannon's resourceful. I'll give him that. I will give the fucker that. So, of course, Bannon starts talking on the political sphere. Obviously, Breitbart's where he really wanted to hit it. You could see where he was going from his movie career back in, within the last decade. Because I think In the Face of Evil came out in 2004. So he's been really running this gambit for a long time.
And you can see a progression, how he's getting better and better at streamlining his supporters into a frothy troll army.
Right. Just a seething rage that denies all other reality than the one spoon-fed to them by their favorite news sources. Mm-hmm. And that happens to overlap with a group of people that have blind faith.
Yeah.
Called evangelical Christians. Support them at 75%. So... Or support Trump at 75%.
Yeah, harkens back to what I was talking about in the first section, where, now he's dealing with these evangelicals, and they can become a real army. They can go onward, Christian soldier, and they would be more than willing to, for a man like Bannon, who has a puppet like Trump leading the way.
Yeah, and you can tell that Bannon has some crazy... I don't even know if he is Christian. I would assume that he's kept his Catholic faith from his upbringing. He was a studier of world religions for a while there, so I get he had a Zen Buddhism phase reportedly, and He got into some ancient like Indian texts and stuff. I was reading one article about, I believe, a philosopher from the 19th century or maybe the 17th century. Like his name was Gwennon, who really pushed this thing called traditionalism, which is not just like I'm a traditionalist on the Bible. Like it's like a strict moral philosophy or like ideological philosophy, saying that the only ways to know the moral truths of the world are through the more ancient religions. And it's not Christian-centric, but like medieval Catholicism, Vedic Hinduism, and these old ones that reach back thousands of years are the ultimate conveyors of a moral truth that we've lost. I also believes that like the signs of the apocalypse were like the Knights Templar disbanding in the 1300s and that we're kind of part of a Hindu cycle that ends on the 6,000 years of now, where we've erased traditional values that are more of a encoded moral philosophy. Like these are the kind of things Bannon apparently philosophically drive him.
There might be a philosophy behind Steve Bannon and his actions. We might never fully understand it. I'm more of the mind, though, that Steve Bannon, and like him, this entire administration, is not Christian themselves. But they recognize that they can use Christianity. Christianity in modern America has really started to be on the same level as the white Western supremacy. Mm-hmm. And that's obviously something that Bannon's really into. And the easiest way to accomplish that in America is with the support of the blind faith in the Christian right.
No doubt, but it's a mutual using at that point.
Well,
because the evangelicals are using Trump to bring about their apocalyptic fantasies or their vision of a dictatorial Christian regime I guess a Christian equivalent of an entire Sharia law over the entire culture, not just in your churches, but over the entirety of the law, to bring about the resurgence of a Judeo-Christian ideas, because apparently us seculars are destroying and just wiping away all of our moral history. So we're all going to be in some moral relative crazy thing where we help immigrants and people down on their luck and try to use technology and science to lift people up.
How dare us? Yeah,
so we're ruining the ability for a dude like Bannon to have a wife with kids that he won't let into a Jewish school because they're fucking dirty Jews.
You might actually see some people with different color and skin in his town, and he can't have that.
Yeah, and that's the peace of mind, right? You need to be safe in your neighborhood, and if you have some Somali person or somebody in this camp of saints that these liberal people are doing, you just can't have that in Bannon's world. So this really harkens to when he went to the Vatican in 2012, though, and spoke at an audience in Vatican City. So what he really pushed there was his vision of how we should manage what he thinks is the collapse of Western morals. Direct quotes are that, godlessness and libertarianism have sapped the strength of the Judeo-Christian West to defend its ideals. So, it's not necessarily that those ideals are right. He thinks that secular culture and liberal culture in general make it so that they can't defend their ideals. I don't know what defend means there. You know what I mean? Defend with a sword, defend with violence. Because at a Trump rally, it seems that you should have the right as a Christian to punch somebody for talking.
Especially if they're not Christian.
Right. And I know the left has had some issues lately with violently reacting to speech, but I would just like to remind everybody that Christians have been doing it for a long time. This whole violent reaction to subjugating speech. Let's fucking go to movies. Let's go to speakers. Let's boycott them, or let's boycott and protest them outside. I don't remember a whole shit ton of leftists doing that when I was young, but I remember a shit ton of Bible thumpers going out to local movie theater to protest, I don't know, fucking Titanic or something.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy. And he went to the Vatican and did this whole like a 10-point plan. He argues that we're in an era of global economic crisis that makes it so that we need to defend capitalism, and that the best capitalist leaders hold Judeo-Christian beliefs, that they are the ultimate arbiters of a free market system, and they're the only ones that will keep it in. As though, free market to me says an uncontrolled market, but if you're controlling that with Judeo-Christian ideals, I would see that as a kind of social safety net would be inside of that system. Like, I feel like, what Jesus purportedly taught in the New Testament spoke a lot more to society coming together to help their fellow man than to, help the specific people who don't need help because they've already had the helping hand.
Yeah.
We'll link to stuff in here where you can kind of read about this Vatican speech, but I really do feel like it gets at the heart of Bannon's philosophy. This gets into the whole we need a Christian extremist type of ideology. By extremists, I don't mean that they're going and shooting up people, even though Dylan Roof definitely went up and shot people based on a Christian white supremacist ideology. There's definitely violent Christians out there willing to. If you ever seen Breaking Bad, there's a moment where Jesse, played by Aaron Paul, gets back from a rehab center and he says, "I know who I am now. I'm the bad guy." And when I saw that, I thought, there's a motherfucker in every church pew, in every church, who thinks, I'm the bad guy. Jesus chose me to be evil and do sinful things, so that
for his will.
For his will.
Yeah.
I'm an instrument to him, and I will gladly sacrifice my eternal soul to and that's kind of mentality is bred in fucking churches around them, and it's just simmering. It's just simmering. Secularism has kept it at bay, but it's always been there. So what I see is Bannon trying to break open this genie that secularism is caged in because it's so fucking dangerous, against what is a genie that's out of the fucking bottle because secularism has not chained or was not let to because I feel like there has been in recent past a complete backtrack from the Middle East countries that were going to a more secular society back into just this kind of theocracy. And so this their genie was kind of being bottled up a little bit late. And then now it's popping out again. And now the Christians are just foaming at the fucking mouth over here with the greatest army in the world, and Trump puppet at his helm, and Bannon as the puppet master.
Well, these talking points have become rife in this administration. What I'm seeing a lot is the blending of these terms. Because you're right, there is a traditional Christian undertone, but there is also a white Western culture undertone too. It's a blend of these. From the recent European trip that Trump went, here's a quote from Trump's speech in Poland. The fundamental question of our time is whether the West has the will to survive. This is in reference to, the floods of immigrants. And when they talk about these immigrants, they just mention the immigrants. And they don't talk about all the meaning behind it because they know that to the audience they're talking to, as soon as they say immigrants, they're brown people with a different culture and religion than us.
That's right.
That's what they hear.
That's right.
So they don't have to say anything else. They can just say immigrants. And this speech was written by Stephen Miller, which we know is a Bannon lackey.
Oh, Stephen Miller is his own fucking can of worms. Yeah. I don't think we'll ever get to a deep dive on him, but just read up about this guy. He is fucked up. More
language. The West will prevail in the fight against radical Islamic terrorism. Now, these speech terms were not used when he went to the Middle East.
Okay.
And this is an example of
when he was bringing the three religions together and meeting with everybody and putting his hands on the Saudi Arabia orb of power.
Yeah.
I love that photo.
Yeah. This is just another example of Steve Bannon and the people that he has chosen to help run this administration, knowing their audience, knowing what to say
and when
at what time
to
whip up whatever extreme is in that area.
Right, and Poland is the perfect place to do that because they're right, like the kind of fascist-y, right-wing, extreme right-wing groups are like popping off in Poland.
Well, in Poland,
and Warsaw's history in and of itself speaks to this kind of this kind of tone and this kind of defending the Western ideal thing.
With the European Union having its struggles economically and with Brexit. So you could say that there's a bit of chaos in Europe. There's a bit of uncertainty about Europe's future. And then on the other side, you have Russia, which is taking chunks of other countries' lands, making very obvious moves in other countries' politics.
Mm-hmm.
Poland's been there before. Mm-hmm. Poland knows what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great time to whip up this extremism in Poland.
Yep. And it really... See, and this really gets into this whole symbolism thing. Like, that's all Bannon. Bannon, like, there was during the first Middle East trip a couple months ago, they wanted to land at a site that was like a stepped monument that was like, had very ancient religious significance. Forgot what it's called. They wanted to land a helicopter on the plateau at the top. And when they were told they couldn't do that because it was a heritage site and it was protected and they couldn't do that because they might damage shit at this, holy site.
Yeah.
They were like, hey, we can provide something so that basically Trump doesn't have to walk up all the steps. They're like, fuck that. And I think it's not necessarily, although it would be it's funny to think that Trump just didn't want to deal with that. Because he was lazy. Well, the real reason is because it did not have the symbolism of a mighty American piece of technology landing on this ancient site to show all the evangelicals back in the States that we are going to be the army of God coming into this country and that we, bring about the apocalypse or take back the Holy Land or whatever fucking crazy fantasy they have. That's why because if they're not going to be able to land that helicopter on that ancient monument with such significance, why do it at all?
Right.
You know? And so that obviously the point is not to actually talk to all the religions and get their perspectives and show him as a real leader there. It's all about that symbolism.
Yeah.
And that's all Bannon.
And what I would love listeners to do is, and I'm going to say listen to Trump. All right? And that's the only time, it's the only time I'm going to say it. Listen to Trump's speeches. When he is coherent, that's somebody else's words. That's Steve Bannon's words. That's Steve Bannon's ideology coming out of his mouth.
His touch.
When Trump doesn't have a speech in front of him, he says things like, what did he say about North Korea? They have very, very bad behavior. And we're planning some pretty severe things. That's Trump speak.
That sounds like Trump, what the dominatrix says to Trump in his sessions that I imagine go on when he's, he's got the sadomasochistic type of thing. Maybe when he's doing that choke masturbation thing that you see on TV. I think that's the language that one of those people uses.
When he was at the G20 and he was asked about the Russian probe, Trump says, I think it was Russia, and I think it could have been other people. I mean, that's a contradictory sense. Trump is not an eloquent man. So when he puts words together, like that quote from Poland, when he strings words together like that make
coherent sense.
Yeah. That's
all Bannon.
The fundamental question of our time.
Yeah, right.
Is whether the West has the will to survive.
Yeah, that's straight from Bannon.
Yeah, that's
his philosophy all day. And so he is the terrifying aspect of this administration. Mm-hmm. I do want to mention that news that did drop today was that Trump said that he would, going back to Sessions, I just kind of want to touch on this because we're basically done with Bannon, guys. Research him, watch him, and please don't think that he isn't the deciding factor in everything going on.
Frontline had a great piece on him a couple months ago called Bannon's War. You can find that on pbs.org and watch that. It's a good watch.
There's books coming out about him. I think in the past 2 days there's a book kind of deep diving into him. There's a lot to read about Bannon. He is the scariest figure in the world. I could single-handedly bring about the end of the world, which totally fits into Bannon's, I think he has that kind of attitude about himself. Yeah. But Sessions, who we mentioned, meeting in a closed door, it was just announced earlier today, really, that Trump was recorded as saying that I wish Sessions had told me he was going to recuse himself from that.
Because then I wouldn't have nominated him.
Yeah, I wouldn't have nominated him if I knew he was going to recuse himself from the investigation I needed him to free me from.
Right.
I just needed to drop that in.
So by the time you are hearing this, dear listener, Jeff Sessions might have already resigned.
Might have already resigned. And we got a new motherfucker in there who's going to be fighting with Mueller about... Like, Donald Trump Jr. fucking just tweeted out the evidence of him meeting with somebody. And there's that's Oppo research. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think...
Yeah, it's really shaky.
The Clinton dynasty is a shady place for me. But even them, I don't think, would be like, yeah, Russia.
Well, at least...
Give me all the deets.
At least Clinton's shady shit was done in the shade.
I guess the real question, though, would be, would Chelsea Clinton take that bait? Because, we're comparing apples to oranges if we do Donald Trump Jr. to Hillary Clinton.
I don't think that Chelsea Clinton would.
Whatever. This shit's hitting the fan. Once again, I don't really know if I want Trump out of office because Pence is the next up in line, but
I tell you,
he's so dangerous.
My honest dream scenario is Trump stays in office full 4 years, full term, completely ineffective, completely falls apart, drags his entire party down with him. We come out in 2018 midterms and put, Democrats in the House and the Senate.
New party, guys.
Yeah.
The Federation. Just straight up Star Trek shit. We can launch it when the new series comes out and promptly get on the series for destroying everything we love about Star Trek. Predicting it now, I don't think you can save it, Jonathan Frakes. That's Riker, and he's directing some episodes, if you don't know. Either way, last piece of news. Kind of sad, and the Republican who least deserves anything bad to him happening has just come out that John McCain has a tumor in his brain.
Yes. Very sad news.
It's very sad news. I feel like he's a tragic figure brought down by Palin, I really think like that was his real turning point to
I think it was before that. I think it was 2004 going against George Bush. Mm-hmm. The attack ads that came out in South Carolina.
Okay.
That were alleging that he had illegitimate black children.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Really?
The Bush campaign in 2004 was vicious against John McCain, and I think it crushed him because from then on, it seemed like from 2004 on, the Maverick wasn't a Maverick anymore.
Yep. And now the man who was a POW served our country.
Yeah.
Was told by the man in office right now that I like people who don't get caught about POWs. Now he gets the brain tumor? This is this is proof there is no God, guys.
Now, I will say that at the time of this recording...
Not that we need any, but...
Right. At the time of this recording, the news from the Mayo Clinic was that he had surgery. They believe that most of it, that the tumor was removed. However, he is still going to have to go through possibly chemotherapy and radiation.
Dude, that's just no joke.
He is over 80 years old, you guys.
Yeah.
Interesting side note, John McCain's mother is still alive.
Shit.
She is 105 years old, John McCain's mother.
Yeah, I mean, at the risk of sounding terrible, if you get to that age, you can't say anymore that you expect to die before your children. Right. Like, you're kind of getting to that age where it's like, you're asking way too much. Anyway, so I actually think that's sad news. I hope he has no problems being that. I really wish no ill will to John McCain. It kind of explains that Senate hearing, if that was going on. Yeah. And, he has had some weird things, but
Get better, Maverick.
Get better, Maverick. Get better, Maverick, and fuck Bannon for pushing Palin because he was there
right.
down in 2012. Because that was the Maverick. Straight talk, guys.
That's right. Yeah. And you'll get some more straight talk from us in a couple weeks. I think for our next episode, we're wanting to talk about trolling.
Oh yeah, we want to get into the. When's it effective? When's it just fucking annoying? When, what's really the history of it and how, the current, I feel like we're fighting ideological lines based on trolling, in a myriad of groups. And, maybe we can get into the effective argumentation and when's a good time to troll? Just admit that you're doing it for yourself, okay? If you watched the South Park season a couple of years ago, when Randy,
it was Kyle's dad.
Kyle's dad. What's his name? Shit, we're getting South Park minutia, guys. Kyle's dad was a troll. He just did it for the love of trolling, and he got into this group of trolls, and they all had ulterior motives and thought they were saving the fucking world.
It was a great season.
It was a great season, but, we'll kind of get into that whole aspect, and,
Gerald,
that's right. I think trolling, we all invite everybody. Gerald Broflovsky. We invite everybody to take the Pro-Truth Pledge, so if you do troll responsibly, and don't spread fake news.
That's right.
So,
thank you for joining us on Secular Nation.
This is Jeremy.
And this is TJ.
See you next time.